You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hello? Hello?
Hey, who's interrupting my intro?
Is this a joke?
This is no joke, kid. This is the Earth Station DCU podcast.
No closing anybody. Sickening.
We're not that kind of podcast, kid. We talk DC news, comics, movies, and television.
You gotta do better than that.
We review Supergirl, Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, and Arrow every week.
That a fact. How much do I owe you?
You don't owe us anything. The podcast is free.
Oh, I just heard this story in the cab, and it is all I can think about.
We are part of the ESO Network.
This is amazing.
Why, thank you. And join us every week for another edition of the Earth Station DCU. Now, can we get back to the show, please?
Hello, and welcome again to the Monster Sci-Fi Show podcast. I am your host, The Monster, and the noise you hear in the background, it's not a happy noise. It's a noise that was sprung upon us 24 hours later. So we're getting our roof done, finally, from the damage from Hurricane Irma. And today being May the 4th, so happy May the 4th be with you, Star Wars Day. I had to record this now because later on, in about a couple hours, I'm going to West Dade Regional Library, which is my old library branch, to work on a Star Wars event today. So if you happen to be listening to this podcast on Friday, May the 4th, I have an event for you that's free of charge for everyone. Please come down to West Dade Regional from 5 to 8 o'clock for our Star Wars Day celebration. So, having said that, 24 hours ago, I was looking forward to just kind of sleeping in a bit, catching up on some TV. You know, quiet stuff. And unfortunately, yeah, the roof is going to be worked on starting today, this morning. So I have a headache this big, and it's got the roof written all over it. Oh, man. So like I said, I really don't have time to record this any other time because I'm working from 12 to 9. Tomorrow is Free Comic Book Day. And that really kind of ties up the whole weekend altogether because I just don't have time otherwise. And again, I want to put this out on a timely manner. So it's not going to be a very long podcast, but I will say this. The whole theme for today is basically DC-centric. So not that I'm doing this as counter-programming to Marvel's Avengers Infinity War or the MCU. That's not the case. But Gene and I will talk very soon to review the latest Avengers movie. But let's get started because, again, this is driving me nuts. And I'm not a pirate with a steering wheel on my nuts saying this drives me nuts. No, that's not how it's going to work. Alright, so as I'm saying this, it's a very DC-centric podcast. Starting off with, we have news about the new DC streaming service, a new series coming to the DC streaming service, as well as a star from Arrow is leaving the show, as some news about what may happen for season 7. So, let's get started. DC finally has announced that its streaming service is called DC Universe. Now, since I don't know any more information other than the name, as I mentioned before in previous podcasts, it's going to be a combination of original programming. There's probably going to be animation. God damn it. There's going to be animation series as well. And there's just a speculation about having access to a lot of the DC comics online. So if that's the case, I'm definitely going to be more on board with this, just because it's a better package deal that DC can bundle all this together rather than, we have Marvel on Netflix, we have Marvel doing its own comics, and then DC eventually, Disney will do their own stuff eventually. So rather than all being scattered, if DC does it right, putting this all under the DC universe, that'll be an interesting thing for fans to partake in. So, of that news, we've mentioned before that we're going to get the Teen Titans or Titans series. There's going to be a Harlequin TV series as well. The latest news also was that Metropolis, much in the vein of like Gotham or Krypton, was going to be a new series in which there was no Superman per se, but a Lois Lane-centric story, and that seems to be having pushed aside. Why? Well, thanks to director James Wan, who is going to be making, or I should say has done making, still fixing up, the Aquaman movie. I can't talk today. The Aquaman movie is going to be producing this TV series. So having Swamp Thing, I think it'll be really interesting because, first off, my first, not so much introduction into the character himself, but the first movie that I saw, and this was dating back when my teenage years, Swamp Thing was kind of like a low-budget TV, not low-budget TV, but a low-budget movie in which, what's his name? I'm sorry, I'm blanking out here. Wes Craven, sorry. Wes Craven had directed this, so, up to that point, he's done really good horror movies, and this was kind of an interesting move to do something more superhero, but this is way before like superheroes that we know today. So one of the other benefits of watching Swamp Thing, aside from being DC, was Adrienne Barbeau. And I'm sorry, but seeing Adrienne Barbeau naked is probably one of the best things that I got to see on the big screen, literally. And then I want to buy the DVD, and somehow that scene gets cut. And I'm like, I remember more to that footage. What the hell? So, I know I'm getting old, but I know what I know. It's nothing like I lost track of time or like I made it all up in my head. No, there's pictures out there. So I'm just kind of mad that the DVD came out with less Adrienne Barbeau. But in any case, so that came out in 1982. So again, perfect age in my growing up with everything else that was on that time, which is like Empire, Raiders of the Lost Ark. So 80s was big to me. Now, there was another movie, The Return of the Swamp Thing, with Heather Locklear, which was disgusting. It really didn't do much, and I was really disappointed. But there was a TV series, which, for the life of me, I don't know why I did not get into it, but this came out in 1990 and ran for almost 3 seasons. So, it is going to be interesting considering the big push for... God damn it. For the big push for superheroes on the small screen. And DC does kill it. I mean, the CW is really great with Supergirl and Legends and Arrow and Black Lightning. Oh God. Anyway, so it will be interesting to what they can do for Swamp Thing. Now, having said all that, I remember in the comics is that Constantine and Swamp Thing have met on occasion. So now that Constantine will be on Legends of Tomorrow, wouldn't it be fantastic to see those two paired up? Even if it's just for an episode, I would be ecstatic to see those two come together. So I'm really excited about all this, but on the exact same token, because this has been kind of moved up, Metropolis is going to be kind of reworked and pushed aside. So that's kind of an interesting twist of fate with that series. But in any case, Swamp Thing looks like it won't happen until sometime in 2019 for that. So, the last bit, again, sticking with DC, we're going to be talking about Arrow. So, we already lost Willa, who played Speedy as Oliver's sister. So, Colton Hayes came back for an episode, and she ran off with him to be happy. But interesting enough is that Colton is going to be coming back for season 7. So, he will be basically taking up his old role for that new season. So he'll be playing Arsenal for that. And there is possibly an idea of crossing over Black Lightning with Arrow. So if that's the case, then we're not necessarily looking at Black Lightning happening on an alternate Earth. So it looks like it's the exact same universe that Flash is taking place in. And Captain Lance, his character, Quentin Lance, played by Paul Blackthorne, is going to be no longer on the show after season 6. So there's no plans, or at least there's no idea as to how he is going to be written off or why he is no longer going to be on the show. Personally, I have enjoyed his performance. I have enjoyed the character to a great deal. I think by this point, there's not much you can do with Captain Lance, since you've already done the whole I hate the Hood and I hate Oliver. I don't know who he is, but he's one and the same. I'm going to capture him. Or blaming Oliver for the death of his daughters or his drinking problem. And now the Black Canary, from the Earth 2, being the replacement daughter-ish. I think we're kind of done with the character as far as it can go. And I'm kind of interested in reintroducing more characters, or at least something more to help invigorate the series. Let's just not bring in Cousin Oliver, because we know how that all ended up on the Brady Bunch. No Cousin Oliver allowed. So, alright, so as I said, not a very long podcast because of what's going on upstairs. But please make today a special day and watch Star Wars. If you're in Miami, and again, listen to this podcast when it's coming out on Friday, please come to the library. You will have tons of fun. Even though we're showing The Last Jedi, you will still have tons of fun doing other things, I will assure you. So, in any case, please remember, you can always email me at monsterscifishow@gmail.com. You can follow me on the various social networks. So again, thank you for listening to me, to the noise upstairs, and to the Monster Sci-Fi Show podcast. It's sci-fi from a certain point of view. Good night.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping through Amazon.com or the TeePublic Store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.